sure you're all getting very hungry. Food should be coming out, but while we're waiting for the food to come out, we're going to invite our panelists to come up for the next part of the program. So, without further ado, Haotanto, yay! Kabir, Narang, Tran, and Sagar, you're here too. Here you are. And if I can invite our moderator, Vikram, Khanna, the associate editor, Straits to moderate the discussion. Thanks very much.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here among this august company. I think it's very appropriate that we talk about the purpose economy during a Thai event, because from what we've heard from Amit and Khatri and Mr. Ram, Thai sounds like the ultimate purpose-driven organization. The author Aaron Hurst, who's written probably the most definitive book on the purpose economy, has suggested that it is the new evolution of the global economy after the industrial age and after the information age. People will want more and more, not so much just efficient production or connectivity. They will want purpose. They will want to look for meaning in their life and in their work. We're privileged to have with us 4 entrepreneurs who are all champions of the purpose economy, and in fact, who have control not just one company, but several, each of them. And so we'd like to learn more about their perspectives from the inside on how it all works. So before we start the discussion, can I ask you all to introduce yourselves and your company and your role in it very briefly in 1 minute. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me here, Vikram. I'm Sagar, Khatri. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Multiplier. Multiplier is a global employment platform that helps companies employ talent globally without having to set up a legal entity. Today we are roughly 400 people strong in 45 countries with people of 60 nationalities.
My name is Tran, and I'm absolutely privileged to serve on the board of Thai Singapore, and I'm very thankful to be here today. My daytime is co-founder and managing partner of CapConnect, and we're privileged to work with the founders to get them funded, execute on the correct strategy, and ultimately exit. We have 2 offices in Singapore and Delhi, and our team of 8 serve founders in over 10 countries in South and Southeast Asia.
Hi everyone. Thank you for being here with all of us. It's really very inspiring to sit here with all of you. I'm Anna. I'm the founder of ABZD Capital. We are an investment firm that invests into F&B, and also the founder of the New Savvy, which is Asia's leading investment, financial, and career platform for women.
I'm Kabir, Narang, founding partner of B Capital. We're a global technology firm. I'm a mathematician by training, passionate about both photography and investing. I've always thought a good photograph is similar to a good investment with the alignment of the head, heart, and the eye. So it's great to be here.
Okay, thank you for that. So now we know where you all...
I'm just going to make a quick mention this on. Just a quick announcement to ask you all to be a little bit respectful of the panelists and the moderator who don't get to eat while you do. So if we could just keep the conversations to a minimum, eat peacefully and happily, and give your attention to these wonderful people.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for telling us where you come from. Now it's the big question. What is your big why? WHY. How do you define your company's purpose? And how did you arrive at the definition? What was the journey like? So if you can start with
That's a great question. I think to understand the purpose, just to explain again, we help companies employ talent globally, right? Without having to set up their legal entity. We envision a world where no matter where you're born does not determine which opportunity you can have access to. Right? So literally you can be born in India and you can get an opportunity that so far only Americans had access to because we have literally removed for you being there physically, right? We are a platform that allows for remote work to proliferate. Similarly, as a company, no matter where incorporated, you can get access to any talent in the world, right? There's a Conferi report which says that by 2030, there will be a talent shortage of 70 million skilled talent, which will lead to a revenue loss of $8.5 trillion. Now that's a big number. That's almost same as combined economy of Germany and Japan. So we envision a world where you can do the job that you love without really having to leave the place that you love, right? The other aspect of the purpose at Multiplier is about how you bring the other gender in the economy, right? If you talk about developing world, the other gender, which happens to be women gender, has always been neglected. So if they were to now work from home and not go to office, they can come back to employment, formal employment, and they can, if they were to go to office, they can still make 70% of their livelihood working from home. So a big idea is around how to drive the GDP growth by getting the other gender into economy if they can work from home.
So what I understand is it's number one, job creation overall, and another one is gender empowerment. Is that, if you were put it in very brief terms, would that be your purpose? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Chris.
At CapConnect, we're simply lucky enough to work with a special type of crazy person. And that crazy person is the founder. And the founder does three crazy things. Number one, make financial decisions that risk-adjusted statistically are poorer for themselves than if they didn't found the company in the first place. Number two is to take emotional risk, particularly in some cultural places in Asia where it's more pronounced and more difficult to stand out and to risk value. And the third risk that this special type of person, the founder, takes is to actually put themselves and their family, oftentimes, in physical danger because you're disrupting traditional industries and vested industry groups. We love this special type of crazy people because they have the conviction to do something about changing the world, and we feel very privileged at CapConnect to support them with capital, strategy, and excellence. That's our why.
Thanks. Thank you, Chris. So your purpose is to leverage the power of crazy people.
Absolutely.
Very good. Anna, you have so many food interests, which is one of my favorite things.
After hearing Chris, I feel like I'm quite crazy. Okay, so I think for myself, it has been a journey in terms of finding out what is the why. When I first started working, it was always about financial security. And then when I first started my first startup, the New Savvy, it was always about empowering women, about helping people, raising the level of financial literacy in Asia, which is lacking. And so then we started our investment fund, and we bought, all these restaurants. We have about 40 outlets now. And I kind of asked myself, what is the purpose, right, other than making money? So a few years ago, an entrepreneur friend of mine came to me and said, the purpose of being a leader, of running a company and being an entrepreneur is not only to make money, but it's also to provide employment. Because your job, your sole role as an entrepreneur is to make sure that you take care of the people that are working for you, that to provide them with growth, and also to make sure that you take care of their family. So I think for me, I finally found my purpose of why.
Thank you, Anna. Kabir, what do you
Three things. I think when we started the firm, really it was around innovation without borders. 2016 we made our first investment in Singapore, where you had about 70-80% of innovation still predominantly happening in a 40-mile radius in Silicon Valley. So it really was around why not have innovation in other parts of the world, whether it's Singapore, Jakarta, Mumbai. I think the second was, how do you get concepts? I come from private equity background as one of my other co-founders. How do you get concepts of late-stage investing to the venture world? That time also we realized gravity is a real concept as is cost of capital. It's now more obvious right now, but we're saying, can we bring some of those fundamentals as we evaluate companies? That's the second thing. And then third is just backing great founders. It's a privilege to back some great founders. Honestly, we learn from them more than they learn from us, but that's been the exciting part of the life.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's have a look at the impact of the purpose economy. How does it benefit, number one, customers of your portfolio companies? Number two, how does it change the lives of your employees? I think you've talked a little bit about that. And how does it impact financial performance?
That's a very interesting question, because if you are a purpose-driven company or a startup in our case, it becomes easier to align all the stakeholders, whether these are attracting and retaining employees, getting new customers and retaining them, or rather having favorable relationship with the government, right? As a young startup, the single important thing, or the two important things are customers and employees. If you talk about customers, there are three ways where it really helps us attract more customers.
Okay.
One is, if you are a purpose-driven, in our case, employment solution, it immediately establishes trust and credibility for customers. So customers think that, hey, they stand for something, so if they were to choose between us and anybody else, they would feel more credible to go with us. The second thing is, more and more when, our biggest market is America today, more and more when they think about selecting a vendor, selecting a partner to work with, ESG becomes a very, very important part. And I think that's where they will always tend to go with you. The third and more intangible benefit that we have seen is, when you have a purpose-driven company, when you have aligned your employees, the motivation to go above and beyond to delight your customers is really high.
Okay.
And hence that results in extremely high CSAT and customer satisfaction score, and that becomes an important mode for your company. In addition to that, I think, if you are a company, for example, in our case, we are responsible for creating jobs in rural economy and so on and so forth. You also have a new pocket of investments that get unlocked that want to come and work with you. And in long run, whether it's customers, it's employees, even governments want to work with you, because in our case, we bring back the dollars into formal economy. We make sure the employees pay their income taxes, their social contributions, and so on and so forth. And hence, in the long run, it aligns with all the stakeholders.
Fantastic, yeah. Chris, impact.
I'd like to share a consideration of impact from the customer viewpoint. And really, as we enter into the more mature stages of the fourth industrial revolution and the fifth industrial revolution, and as we tackle the issue of cooperation, potential de-globalization, etc., that customer is facing more pressure than ever before. And the only way to win the trust of that customer and to come up with solutions for that customer is to have a more galvanized workforce, is to lead from the top, and to think around purpose and stakeholders in a much more holistic way. Quite frankly, the purpose economy is driven because it just takes so much more now. And let's talk about millennia and the younger folks. And they're all given a bad time, spoiled, etc. But this is a reality. There is an upside of relative benign economic conditions and a safe global environment since the 1990s. They've had time to think about what really matters to them. And if we're going to win this war for talent, if we're going to win this war for inspiration, we have no choice but to engage this wonderful resource, which are our future, around the purpose-driven economy and the purpose of our work and the purpose in our behaviors, everything that we do.
Okay. Anna, so how does it impact performance? How does being a purpose economy impact the performance of your company?
I don't know how to talk that up. I think for me, when you run a company, right, you want the best of everything. You want a well-run company, you want high growth, high performance, high profit, and everybody is happy. But the truth is, when you run a SME or a small company, a startup, more often than not, you're always at the pressure. It's a war between growing, getting more profit, expanding, and really focusing on your purpose. I think for us, one of the things that really stayed with me is during COVID. At the start of COVID, we just started our first investments. So we made our first acquisition, opened our first restaurant, and COVID hit. I really remember this, discussion with my partners, right, asking what is the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is not closing down the restaurants, it's actually shutting down the whole business and returning investors their money. And I remember I was very sad and very, we had 100 people on our payroll, and I told them the only thing I ask is let's not fire anyone. I don't want us to let anyone go, right? And throughout COVID, we did everything we could to upskill them, to keep them on payroll, and actually it worked out well for us because we actually expanded. We opened 5 stores during COVID. We had a lot of brand recognition, and when things finally go back to normal, where everyone else is having a labor shortage, we never had those problems.
What restaurant was that? The first one? The first restaurant that you didn't close. What restaurant? What was the restaurant?
What restaurant? Oh, Mrs. Pho.
What?
Mrs. Pho.
Okay, I must remember that. Kabir.
I'm going to answer that. I'm going to change the question slightly. I'm going to ask the audience a question just to see who's paying attention. You spoke about the purpose economy and you spoke about evolution. And I do think for companies, it's going to be part of the evolution, right? In the short term, you may not realize why it's important. But in the long run, to be relevant to your employees, to be relevant to your customers, to be relevant to other stakeholders, is going to be critical, right? So, question for the audience, and I'm not going to cold call, but I'm going to compare evolution of nature with a company, right? And so, since the history of time, how many types of species do you think that existed on Earth? So 10 million in one answer here. 149 million, Amit? Anyone else? So the answer is estimated to be over 5 billion. To put it in perspective, I love running botanic gardens. There are about 8,000 species in botanic gardens. If I spend a minute looking at each of the 5 billion species, it takes me around 1,000 years. Just to give you a perspective of the number of species. 99.9% of species are extinct. And so while nature is great at producing, it's also wonderful at if you don't adapt, extinguishing. Right? And so the reason I bring it up is companies as well. Right? There are about 7,500 companies that got invested in Southeast Asia in the last 5 years. 14,000 in India in the last 15 years, 25,000 in the US in a similar period. I think if companies don't adapt and evolve, the nature is given a guidance of what happens. So I think we are reaching a phase where in the short term it may not be apparent, but in the medium to long term, if you don't adapt to the purpose economy more broadly, if you don't adapt to your stakeholders more broadly, then you will be at the fate of the dinosaur.
Okay, I think we should get on to the last question. Probably the most difficult one of all. If somebody wants to be a purpose-driven entrepreneur, what questions should he ask himself?
I think I think there are 3 questions that I have asked myself when I was starting this, so I think I would give the same advice. One is, this journey is very painful.
Very painful.
Yeah. So you need to have a very strong why. If you really want to go through these 5-10 years of building your company out, you have to suffer every bit of pain that comes with company building. So you have to have a very strong why around why you want to build this company. Second, as a first-time entrepreneur, I realized that your values as a person get trickled down to what the values of your company ultimately end to be, right? So, at Multiplier, our values are trust, transparency, and thoroughness, and those are literally my values. So, it's very important as a CEO, as a founder, what your values are. So, why your values, and third, the scale of the problem that you're solving for, and the impact that will have. So, why, values, and the scale of the problem. Those three are the most important points.
Very good questions. Chris, I want to be a purpose-driven entrepreneur. What should I ask myself?
Apart from the why, ask yourself how to look after yourself better, because you're very important. And it's very hard to have courage and conviction if you don't have a core of safety around you. So family does matter, friends do matter, network does matter. Have these anchoring points in your life and the right ecosystem and community does matter. So how can you first provide some safety around yourself and then people around you? I think sometimes that's a little bit missed in the discussion today.
Anna, what did you ask yourself before you became a purpose-driven entrepreneur?
I think I'll ask why, how, what, right? But on top of it, I'll ask two more questions. The first is, how do I balance short-term performance with long-term vision? And the second question will be, how much pain am I willing to go through for this purpose of mine?
Did you have to go through a lot of pain?
Yes. A lot of pain.
Kabir, questions you ask yourself?
Yeah, I think one is what, if you're authentic to yourself as a start, and so what personally is something that drives you? And it could be because of an experience you've had, it's a pain point you've faced. I'll give you an example of an education company we backed, and the founder comes from a small town in Kerala. And the pain point he faced was he didn't have access to education, so he used to listen to English commentary on the radio to learn English, right? So the pain point he was faced was education in the smaller town. So it needs to be a personal pain point, so what is that personal pain point that can impact you? Second is, who else do you think is passionate about that as part of that mission? And can you kind of bring them along as part of the mission? And third, good points you mentioned is measure the impact that you have as you kind of get on that journey.
Very good. On that hopeful note, I think we have to call this to a close. I'm holding up everybody's dinner, including our own. So, but not before we thank our panelists for a wonderful discussion. Thank you all.
Okay. All right. Big round of applause to our very determined and prolific panelists who had to power through food and chatter and stuff. It's not easy, I can tell you that. It really is not. I do want to thank Vikram Khanna, accomplished economist and journalist in not just Singapore, but represents a whole breed of thought leader journalists across the region and potentially globally. And really, I want to thank Anna, I want to thank Sagar, Kabir, who's, by the way, Kabir is our latest chartered member. If you haven't seen the announcement, it's only because his bio hasn't come to Suda. So thank you, Kabir. And thank you for changing your flight to be here for the panel. And hopefully you'll get some food now. And a big thanks to Chris. Where is Chris? Chris Tran. Thank you. Thank you for powering through. Now, the evening's not over. I thanked you, right, Anna? I couldn't have not thanked you. You're the first one I thanked. So we've got a few more sessions, a few more talks. I'm just kidding. We're going to have some fun now. We do know how to let our hair down. I wish we had waited a little bit for the chatter and stuff, but, I know everyone's excited. We want to get, we want to have a great time. So, with that, I would like to welcome our next act, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a surprise. We have a rock star, a real rock star. We have Dhruv Kent, a former investment banker turned entrepreneur turned rock star, literally. Not my kind of rock star, like I'm a rock star, but I'm an entrepreneur, he's literally a rock star. Prantik's a rock star, but this he plays music. And with him, he's got his band, David Ang, and Lau, Mr. Lau. Yeah. Can't remember his first name, sorry. So, can we bring the band in? All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the evening. It's all fun and games now. See you at TGS.